So this is a question from YouTube viewer at YouTube Makes Me Lol, who says, could you each give your 90, 50, 10 predictions for this year in British politics? Something that you're 90% certain will happen, something that you're thinking is 50% likely to happen, and a hot take or rogue prediction that might happen in 10% of cases. Hannah, what have you got?
90% I'm going for Labour win the election with a majority.
Boring.
Bit boring, yeah. My 50%, sticking with very narrow party politics, is Kemi Badenoch will be the next leader of the Conservative Party. I think she's been the name being talked about. I think that's pretty fair. She is the one to beat. So it's either Kemi or someone else, whether that's Penny Mordaunt or someone on the right of the party, maybe Robert Jenrick. I can't really see that, but I'm not the Conservative watcher that our colleague Rachel is. But yeah, Kemi is the next leader after the election.
Two points on that. I think it would depend what happens in the campaign, how prominent a role that she has, whether she's seen by Tory members, activists and MPs to have done a good job, and also how connected she is with the result. Is she out every day campaigning for Rishi Sunak, or is behind the scenes, is she making criticisms that will justify her saying, well, I told you so afterwards? So I think that'll be key.
Yeah, I think she does appeal. She's young, she's feisty, she's very impressive at the dispatch box. I mean, I can see PMQs being quite fun were she to be leader. And my 10%, I'm going for Nigel Farage to get an official role in the Trump White House.
Well, what have you got?
So 90%, I think one or more councils will issue Section 114 bankruptcy notices. I think that might be one of the things that was on a list of things that are going to go wrong quite soon that prompted Sunak to call the election. I mean, I guess Thames Water would be another one, but there are all sorts of things that, and I think one of the comments that I've seen that seemed quite astute was that was the sort of primary reason why he's called it early.
Well, and then it's going to make it really hard for Labour, particularly after the locals. Bit of a poison chalice, really, that they've inherited, isn't it? Yeah.
And so, 90%, one or more councils go bankrupt. 50%, I think there's a 50% chance of a bank rate cut before the election, which obviously would give Sunak a chance to say, look, turn the corner, we're getting stuff cheaper now, your mortgage is going to get cheaper, Tory mortgage penalty now fading.
Yeah, it will take a long time for that to come through into the markets, the mortgage marketplace. And
it would be a small rate. I mean, if we look at the
0.25 or 0.5,
Yeah, oh well, I mean, potentially even less. Yeah, I mean, it's 0.5 would be a big one. But it's only 50% because inflation was still slightly higher than prediction this week. So that would imply maybe hold on a bit longer till August. But then on the other side of that, business activity is lower than expected, especially in services. So that might imply that actually, the economy is weakening a bit quicker than expected and actually you need to cut rates. So 50-50 could go either way, but it could be fairly significant for the election.
And your hot take?
I'm mad. 90% not going to happen. Tory majority at the election, almost certainly not going to happen. But I was looking at the bookies odds and they're currently 25-1 for a Tory majority. But that's also the most popular bet, which tells you something a bit, about how people bet. They just look at what would get them a load of money for a very small bet. But also that people perhaps think it's not impossible. Hung Parliament is the next most popular at 6-1. And
good odds.
Labour majority is 1-6. So if you bet a tenner, you'd get like £1.
It's interesting with the odds. I remember during the Tory leadership contests of 22, I think it was, you'd always get the bookies turn up in Parliament on College Green, and they'd be there with their whiteboards and their rubbers, and they'd rub out and change the odds as it would go along.
Laughing at the races, it's so difficult.
Which is fun, but also I think but then you'd often see it in the papers reported. Kemi Badenoch's on 3-1, whatever it might be, as if the bookies are political analysts and they're not just trying to get people to place bets. They've got a profit motive here. They're not objective. It's not like they have some insight that everyone else doesn't.
Yeah, so they're trying to get a lot of people to place bets on something they think won't happen. But I guess they are skewing, as part of their business, they are skewing that towards giving people longer odds on a Tory majority to try and get people to pile into it. So, almost certainly not going to happen, but a lot of people seem to think it's worth a punt.
Freddie, come on, what are yours?
I'm going to change a few of mine based on that conversation. 90% I'm going to go with, and I know this is a big concern in Labour, and it has been for a while now, that there's going to be a big issue with the prisons within their first year, whether that's a prison riot or a break or whatever it might be. We know that I think even a month ago there was only 557 places left in the British prison system. We've had news this week that the police want to reduce or...
They've said stop sending, haven't they, to prison? Was that
Yeah,
the
they
Times
want to
yesterday?
change the custodial sentencing. There's also talk about early releases. So there's these huge tectonic shifts that's happening in the prison system that I don't think we've fully addressed. I'm not sure it will come up as much as it should do in the campaign, but maybe in that first 6 months or a year of a Labour government. 50% I'm going to go that the Lib Dems become the third party in Parliament again. And I know it's one of their key aims because it does give you much more influence in Parliament. It helps you with getting media slots. It means that Ed Davey, rather than having a question every 5 weeks, which he currently is at PMQ, so you can get two each week.
Massive difference, isn't it?
It's a huge difference, and it's definitely worth fighting for. And obviously depends hugely on how the SNP do in Scotland, but that's one of their key aims. 10%. My 10% was exactly the same as yours, Hannah. That I think Nigel Farage, given what he said about the fact that he wanted to focus, ever the patriot, he wanted to focus on the US election rather than the British election. Either that he has some role in Donald Trump's campaign, or he gets a big Fox News media gig. Perhaps that's more realistic.
Thanks so much for watching. We'd love to know what you think. Please make sure you leave your comments below. And if you enjoyed watching this podcast, you can watch more of our videos on our YouTube channel. And don't forget to like and subscribe.